Joe Brody, Joe, do you hear us? It would appear that we've lost the call. We are going to be recalling our one of our board members as well as our student board member. In the meantime, I will also like to introduce our district staff participating in person and by phone. Superintendent Dr. Mary Lou Wilson, Chief Business Official Miss Andy Stubbs, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent and Governing Board, Miss Erica Madrigal, is here in person. IT Systems Analyst, Mr. Derek Machado, right here working to get our communications back up. And then also attending by telephone is Mr. Christopher Heller, Chief Academic Human Resources Officer and Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Miss Mary Allen, I'm sorry. And do we have anyone that can tell us that they've called in, Derek?
We just have Joe and Mary right now.
So, Joe, can you say here? Thank you. Mary? Here. Thank you. In the meantime, we are delighted that you're viewing on television channel 27 or our YouTube channel. A copy of this board meeting video will also be available on our website at www.santolinaunified.org. I think we'll revisit. Should we go ahead with the flag salute and come back? Okay. It's only getting 2. So maybe.
Chris and Mary, can you please stay here?
I'm here.
Chris, are you there?
Chris is here.
I'm here.
Okay, please mute your phone unless you're going to speak, okay?
Okay. Okay.
Joe?
Hi,
Hi, Joe. So sorry about that. Just one moment, okay?
it's all good. Yes,
Third time's the charm, Julio. Okay, just one second.
okay.
Julio, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Joe, are you there?
Yes. I'm
Okay,
here.
we're ready. Sorry.
Okay. So thank you everyone for bearing with our technical issues. Please stand and join me with in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Erica, did members of the public submit comments on items not on the agenda?
There were no comments made on items not on the agenda.
Thank you. Communications, item 7. 7A, Santolina Teachers Association report to the board. Brandon?
I think this is on.
Yeah, press the button at the bottom. The bottom, very good.
I did. Isn't? Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. First of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to come in tonight. I know it's different circumstances, and I just felt, as I told Erica, that the importance of what our teachers are doing. I need to give some, honest and somewhat feedback with some emotion, because I'm really proud of our staff. I'm only allowed to speak on behalf of the teachers, but I know the classified staff and the district staff and our administrators are working equally as hard as well. I know that all of this is new. All of this is completely different. From the moment that we got out of school on the 13th, our teachers sprung into action and were able to create plans for multiple weeks of learning that we heard great feedback from parents, from administrators, from teachers, and from students. Not everything has been perfect. We're not going to create something like this on a whim and do everything correct. There's been some definitely challenging times, some hiccups along the way. I think our teachers are adapting. I think each and every day as things change, they are working together with the administration and the district officials and the classified staff and really putting forth a program that I think will be sustainable. And I think that's the most important thing that I've seen, the difference from what I talk to different schools and kids in different schools that I've had a chance to have a conversation with. Learning about what kids are doing in college just a few minutes ago, learning what Jeff's kids were doing in college, learning what kids are doing in other colleges and things like that. I know that everything's different and all circumstances are different, but I think our teachers are putting together a sustainable plan for the next 9 weeks, and I think our kids hopefully will be able to get as much as they possibly can to prepare themselves for next year. I want to commend the working relationship that SHTA has with the district officials, especially Dr. Wilson and Mr. Heller. We've had numerous Zoom meetings. We're having Google Meet meetings all the time with our departments, and things are working as best they can. We have a very, I would say, out of our 100 members, we have boisterous members that want to let me know when things, if they could be better. And I think most of their suggestions get to the right places. And I think a lot of those have been added into our programs. And that's a credit to our administration and district staff, because I can't imagine just well, I can, because I have 75 to 100 students myself. So the wave of different decisions that you have to make for all of our all 1,200 of our students is amazing. Angela Baxter, I want to congratulate her on putting together a great food program. I know some of our teachers have been very interested in helping that. I don't really know what the details other than of that program, other than the numbers of meals that are being prepared have been increasing. I feel horrible for the community, but I know the community is also very supportive of our teachers. and where this thing is going. I hope now that we can at least try to focus on maybe getting back in the fall on a fresh start. But who knows at this point. So just want to thank all of my teachers and all of the district officials, site administrators, classified staff, board members. The people that go into making these decisions are really putting their heart and soul into all of this, and I want to commend everybody for doing what I think is going to be a sustainable and the best opportunity plan that we can give our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. Board members, any questions or comments? Thank you. On to item 7B. We do not have a report from CSCA, but as Brandon said, he has been in touch with a lot of their members as well. So Mary Lou Wilson, the Superintendent's Report, item 7C.
Yes, keeping that one very short for you tonight. A reminder to everyone that although we are in school closures, spring break is next week. I promise all of you it will be a spring break like none other have ever been. And at the same time, our students and our teachers, our staff members have been working. And so I encourage our families to take a break, step away from coursework, rest, giggle, play games, work puzzles, because when we come back on the 14th and the remote learning that the teachers have designed that will be more robust than potentially has been today or yesterday will come fast and furious. There'll be a lot of work to do, and it will become, again, stressful and difficult. So please, everyone, take time to rest and rejuvenate during that spring break.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Item 8, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve this consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mary Lou, we also have to do a roll call here, correct?
We do. Every vote takes a roll call.
So will you be reading the names? Or
I will.
Okay.
Trustee Conwell?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Pelosi?
Aye.
Trustee Haug? Board Representative Browdy?
Aye.
Trustee Olguin, I apologize, it went out of order.
Aye.
Motion carried. Student item 9A, student learning and achievement. I would like to remind the board that this is a written report. Was there any public comment on this agenda item?
No, there was no public comment.
Trustees, are there any questions on this agenda item?
I had a couple of questions. I wanted to confirm that the questions that were asked on these particular events were the same as the cafe. I believe they were the same questions. No? A little different? Tweaked a little differently?
Sure. Chris?
Mr. Heller, would you like to speak to that, or would you like me to? The LCAP steering committee met regularly this year and looked at a number of questions and actually identified a new set of questions.
If you can, I caught the end of that. I'm trying to balance the listening and the delay that's happening.
Thank you, Mr. Heller. So they looked at a couple of different areas of focus for the questions this year. They looked at student achievement, student engagement, equity, and ongoing communication. And so the questions that were identified this year fell into those areas of focus. So they were different questions this year.
Okay.
They were the same questions. The same questions were asked at every parent forum.
Okay.
And there was opportunity for parents to respond to the questions in writing and mail that in. And we did receive a handful of written responses.
Okay. Great. And I think that was it. Thank you.
I had a general question for Mr. Heller, and I'll wait for the time delay. So when you check in, I'll then ask the question. I think that'll work the best.
Okay, I'm checking in.
Excuse me, Mr. Heller, what have you heard about the LCAP statewide, just in general, because of the situation going on with the state, if anything? Oh, I see. So that's he's getting the.
We haven't heard much, but we anticipate that it would probably be very similar to many of the things I'm going to talk about a little bit more in our report, where these types of things will have some sort of delay and or be waived, but I imagine this won't be waived. We are going to move forward with bringing it to the governing board in May for its first public reading, and hopefully anticipate having it approved in June. So we have the information we need to proceed with the 3-year plan development of the LCAP, and we're going to continue to move forward.
Thank you.
And President Haug, if I could just add a few other bits of information. Because we had completed all of our parent forums and we had completed our student panels, and Mr. Heller had participated in different student council meetings and governance meetings, student congress meetings, we are ahead of the game. We do have all of that input that we need. The challenge that the LCAP steering committee faced was that we didn't have the opportunity to analyze all of the data as we typically do as a full team. We do have Babs Kavanaugh, our consultant, working on analyzing the data and bringing together a report for us with regards to the voices of the parents for Chris and Mary to work on the development of the LCAP. So, when I spoke with Babs about that, we talked about the idea that we felt that we were very fortunate that we had all the information, and it's part of our system that we collect voices and information over the course of the year and get those parent voices in February and March. So fortunately, we have all of that information and we're ready to keep moving.
Board members, any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 9B. It's a written report on California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, the CASP science data. And I would like to remind the board that this is, again, a written report. Erica, was there public comment on this item?
There was not.
Trustees, do we have any questions regarding this agenda item?
I had one clarifying question just to understand in my interpretation. I wanted to make sure I was reading the data correctly. So when I was looking at it, those that were in 8th and 5th grade would have had the California NGSS science for the past 5 years. If I'm reading that correctly, I wanted to make sure, A, that I understood that correctly. And then 12th graders.
That is correct.
Okay, great. And then 12th graders would have only had 1 year of instruction within the past 5 years, correct?
No, at the high school level, the traditional pathway for science still is the same because the UC system and CSU system has not modified what they're expecting.
Right.
So we still have discrete courses of chemistry and physics as opposed to integrated courses at the high school level.
Okay, thank you.
Board members, any other questions? I just have a comment. It's our first data for the science, and I'm really I'd like to commend all our teachers. We have outperformed the state averages, as to be expected. Thank you to our teachers and students.
I agree.
So on to board-related items. Item 10A, information on the impacts of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic and adoption of Resolution 19-19, emergency actions by the Superintendent of Schools. I would like to call on Lisa to read the resolution.
Okay. Resolution of the Santolina Unified School District Emergency Actions by the Superintendent of Schools, Resolution number 19-19. Whereas the governing board of the Santolina Unified School District recognizes the immediate public health threat to its community posed by COVID-19, and whereas the governor of California and the county of Napa have declared a state of emergency and have issued recommendations to engage in social distancing and canceling all non-essential gatherings, and whereas the County of Napa Department of Health has issued a recommendation that all schools temporarily suspend in-person classes to curtail the spread of COVID-19, and whereas the board intends to take all actions reasonably necessary to ensure the safety and health of its employees and students, and whereas Health and Safety Code Section 120230 provides the authority for the superintendent of schools to ensure the health and safety of its employees and students in the event of an infectious disease outbreak such as COVID-19. And whereas Education Code Sections 48213, 49451, 44964, and 45199 provides the district with the authority to exclude students and staff members from the school in the event of an outbreak of an infectious disease. And whereas the board declares that it is adopting the stance of the state of California and the county of Napa and is declaring COVID-19 a disease which threatens the health of any and all staff and students. And whereas the board intends to ensure the safety of its students and staff through emergency measures if required. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the governing board of the Santolina Unified School District, through this resolution, acknowledges the authority granted to the superintendent of schools to take any of the following actions in her discretion and without consultation with the governing board, and ratifies the decision of the superintendent of schools to close schools beginning March 16th, 2020 through a date to be determined due to COVID-19. Number 1, exclude students and or staff who exhibit symptoms of COVID-19 or any similar infectious and or contagious disease. 2, provide for alternative methods of education as determined by the superintendent of schools for any students unable to attend in-person instruction due to a closure and or quarantine related to COVID-19. 3, provide compensation for any staff excluded from work due to a closure and or quarantine related to COVID-19. 4, close the district due to either the presence or threat of COVID-19 in accordance with the governor's executive order N-26-20. The foregoing, do I need to read the last part too? The foregoing resolution was introduced. Does that need to be? That concludes the resolution.
So, do the trustees have any questions on this agenda item? Oh, I'm sorry. Erica, was there public comment on this?
There was one member of the public who commented. I can play back their message.
Thank you.
Hello, this is for the item 10A, impact on the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic for the board meeting this evening, April 2nd, 2020. I'm Tish Wagner. I'm a parent group president for RLS and also a board member at the Santolina High School Parent Group. In addition, I'm serving as a member of the Food Access Committee for Community Organizations Active in Disaster. It's also known as COAD for Napa County. So with my parent note, I just want to thank the teachers, principals, administrators who have pulled together assignments for the students to complete over the last 2 weeks. I know there's a lot of anxiety with the shelter-in-place order, and now that things have been extended beyond for the rest of the school year, it's really daunting for teachers and staff to be forced to use new technology platforms and applications and learn best practices for online teaching in just a couple weeks while they're still trying to juggle their own children and life and responsibilities and so on. And then with my parent group hat, I want to thank also the school's administrators and especially Dr. Wilson. She's been an excellent leader. She has she scheduled a Zoom session for the 4 schools, different schools, parent group presidents, and also the Santolina School Foundation president, and answered questions so we can get back to our parents, the parents that we serve. So that's been great. With my food access hat, I want to thank Angela Baxter and her team. I've been out there a couple days this week watching distribution, and it's been amazing. And she's offered to also help, identify any food needs we have in the district and work with me a little, so we can ensure we do the best for our families and our citizens here in the area. And finally, I just want to comment that I know that probably there's some dissatisfaction with maybe the district and the board's response, but I feel exactly the opposite. I'm really thrilled with all that you've done. I'm really grateful for all of you, and I'm happy that we as a community can serve all the students regardless of socioeconomic, geographic location, and just overall access in general. And so thank you for working every day to keep our children and community going. I'm really grateful, and I know I'm going to exceed my 3 minutes if I don't stop talking. So thanks to all of you.
President Houck, we do have additional information to fill in the lines of the resolution prior to taking a vote.
Thank you. And you're going to introduce that, right?
Yes, I am. Thank you. This is a time like no other. I want to thank everyone for the commitment to meet the challenge head on. My special thanks goes to our principals and our teachers who are working with our students every day from a remote setting. We've had very little warning about this shutdown, and every member of our staff is stretching to learn new ways of delivering academics, focusing on social emotional well-being, and maintaining a connection to each student. I want to thank our parents and our families for their understanding and knowing that an answer today may be different in 5 minutes, tomorrow, or the next day. We're working, all of us, the communities and the nation and the world, to stop the spreading of this deadly virus. The current circumstance will only serve to strengthen our commitment to serving social equity and meeting the social and emotional health of our students and staff. A couple of highlights that I'll put before you, and then we'll continue to move on. We closed operations on March 13th, and we already had, in anticipation of closure, developed remote learning plans. We have a strong working collaboration with both of our unions, our teachers group and our classified group. And we are collaborating with the leaders and colleagues across the state to determine our next steps and keep our students and our employees engaged during these times. We're also working with the state, and they are beginning to support us and our students and our staff very well also. Chris will go into more detail later. Do know that CSU and UC has identified guidelines for us, and our high school students are in good stead. The CASP testing, the LPAC testing, ACT and SAT, there's changes to that as well. AP testing will be conducted remotely, and it will be a much shorter test, testing students on what they've learned so far only. We've accomplished much in the last 3 weeks. I've always said that March is a long month. This was the longest one that I've been in. This is a fairly lengthy report because it's really important at this time for board members and the community to understand what our teachers have been working on and what our next steps are. So first, Chris is going to give you a report on remote learning, and I will close that report with more details around each of our schools. And then Andy's going to go into the business operations and provide you an update in each of those areas as well. So again, it is a long report, and it's an important and valuable one. So, Christopher?
Chris, you're up.
For those of you watching on TV, we're just having a little technical delay. There's a time delay in the in our equipment.
President Halk, I'll go ahead and do Mr. Heller's report. On Friday, March 13th, the district made the decision to align with several districts and close operations. However, district staff, administrators, and the teachers union already started preparation for lessons for 2 weeks with the inevitability of school closure. This provided time for students to continue their education, administration to develop potential remote learning plans, and to acquire more information on the rapidly changing situation. During the closure, we have had numerous phone conversations, Zoom calls, Google Hangouts with the union president, Brandon Farrell, administration, and other district staff. The concept of remote learning has been embraced and accepted by our teachers with little resistance, and the work of our teaching staff and specialists to connect with students and families while developing meaningful activities is highly commendable. This is not an easy task for teachers who are used to being in front of students physically and move to working from a laptop. However, the mantra of serving our students to the best of our abilities has been validated by their professionalism and dedication to the craft. During the Zoom administrative meetings, staff has focused on several key criteria. How long should we plan? What do we need to have teachers emphasize in their activities? How do we serve all students, including those with IEPs, English learners, and those without internet access? The direction of providing 3-week blocks of times, 3 weeks of activities up to spring break, 3 weeks from the return of spring break to the previous target return of May 1st, with 6 weeks left in the school year for further preparation, as we know will be needed. Teachers are expected to meet via Google Hangout or Google Meet, it's the same location, to determine essential skills for students in the activities to prepare for the school year. Based on guidance received late yesterday from the state, we will move to a credit, no credit model for the rest of the year for high school transcripts. This will be acceptable for all CSU, UC applicants in their applications and for the future years as well. CASP, our statewide testing, LPAC, our English learning testing, is waived for the 2019-20 school year. ACT and SAT testing for the class of 2021, our current juniors, is waived. AP testing will still be conducted remotely, and the testing time has been reduced from 3 hours to a 45-minute online test, and the logistics are still being determined by the College Board. Our teaching staff, specialists, and support staff will connect directly with special education and English learners' parents and their students either by email, phone, or in a virtual platform, and as warranted using our Spanish-speaking community liaison and paraeducators. Our special education staff is working to provide direct material, resources, assignments, and consultation on designated IEP goals, and in addition provide teaching and learning to the highest extent practical and possible in this alternative learning environment. Packets of equivalent work have been developed for students to pick up directly from school sites for non-internet based activities. And again, this is from Mr. Heller's voice. Again, I want to emphasize and thank our entire district team for their professionalism and approach to problem solving. While it's different for educators who teach in a classroom to transition so abruptly to an online platform, we're doing everything we can to continue the education of our young people. Each of our sites have developed strategic plans for implementation, which I'm now asking Dr. Wilson to share with you. This was my part. So these are some bullets just to give you a deeper understanding about what's happening at each of our school sites. At the primary school, prior to spring break, teachers created hard copies of student work that spanned 3 weeks. All parents picked up the work prior to the during a 2-day window. The leadership team has met twice a week to develop plans for communication and remote learning. Grade level team members meet twice weekly to discuss content for remote learning, communication platforms, and strategies to support all learners. Teachers have been sending out short videos, you've seen some of them, to students to connect with their students. Teachers have identified priority standards in the areas of math, reading, and writing, with these standards being the learning focus for the remainder of the year. A plan was developed for student-teacher communication and student work beginning April 14th. Teachers will communicate with the students at a minimum of twice a week. A live face-to-face meeting using Google Meet. Using the platform Flipgrid, teachers will record messages that students can both view and respond to by recording themselves on their iPad that they're picking up either today or tomorrow. And teachers will push out weekly assignments using Google Classroom. Weekly assignments for our primary students, TK through 2nd grade, will include must-dos in reading, math, writing, and PE, and may-dos in music, Spanish, B-STEAM, and other teacher-provided enrichment activities. There will be weekly support for English language learners via Imagine Learning, and weekly support for students who need additional support in math and or in reading. Today and tomorrow, student iPads and student work packets are being distributed to all families. iPads will include directions in both English and Spanish for accessing Google Classroom, Google Meet, and Flipgrid. Student work packets include differentiated materials for every child and will span 3 weeks. At the elementary school, all students took their Chromebooks home on Friday the 13th. Teachers created 3 weeks of curriculum that included a blend of hard copy and online assignments and shared them with families as remote learning opportunities. All teachers are using Seesaw, an app, to post assignments, video clips, and photos that parents and students see and use as a repository. Specialists and student support teachers are being added to each classroom Seesaw group and will make their own folders to better communicate with and collect work from students. Flipgrid video assignment collections have been started to help unify the students within the whole grade levels, and they're planning some whole school collections such as a virtual talent show. Grade level teams meet numerous times weekly to plan, identify essential math and ELA standards, and create materials for common grade level remote learning opportunities. The instructional leadership team meets virtually to calibrate work being completed across the grade levels. All of the teachers called families to check in multiple times already and have begun to use Google Meet with individual and small groups of students to help them learn how to use the video conferencing platform that they will all implement beginning April 14th. All teachers will open a Google Meet virtual class session from 10 to 12 on Tuesdays and Thursdays beginning the 14th, and each grade level and teacher will determine if they will uniformly add and communicate to families and students about additional video conferencing times, or if they will use extra sessions on an as-needed basis. 3 Spanish-speaking specialists will be assigned to join the office hour video conference during Google Meet. Special ed and intervention teachers and paraprofessionals are and will continue to support learning and language development in the coordination with the classroom teachers. And finally, their bilingual family book club, Fish in a Tree, will be sent home after break, and at-home activities and read-aloud links will be provided. At our middle school, RLS, teachers divided the students up into their family groups and all called the parents to determine who does and does not have the internet. Paper packets have been created and distributed to all students who need them. Weekly Google Meet department meetings are being held. Weekly grade level meetings are being held. Documents have been created to coordinate meetings and to allow the other staff members to join. The instructional leadership team has met with the principal several times. They held their first virtual staff meeting with Google Meet today. And remote learning documents for students, parents, and teacher reference has been created and populated. 1 week of work displayed at a time to avoid overwhelming with our middle schoolers. Office hours are shown, links to the Google meetings, and single clicks to the assignments for each teacher. At our high school, department chair meetings have been held weekly to collaborate and disseminate information to teachers. Department meetings to discuss common approach to remote learning and student workload has occurred. Consistent outreach to parents and students by teachers and administration to contact all students. Technology support has been created, sent out, and posted on the website. Parents without emails have been outreached by our district community liaison, Yvonne Vosti. She is helping parents create email accounts if they need them. Wi-Fi support is available for students with no or poor connection, and there's again another support plan that Andy Stubbs will talk about in just a moment. With regards to grading, they amended the third quarter grading window to close on the 13th, the last day of school in session. Teachers are submitting those grades now. The fourth quarter and second semester will be credit, no credit, accepted by UC, CSU, and the community colleges. The teachers are increasing student and parent communication to ensure engaged student population, and they have a shared Google spreadsheet so all staff can see that the families have been connected with or who we're still looking for. They're using Aries narrative grading to show complete and incomplete work. It is not point-driven. Teachers continue to gauge the level and rigor of work to avoid overwhelming students. They continue internal communications with the Teachers Union site representatives and the Teachers Union president, Brandon Farrell. They're developing a model of instructional practices to share with staff grounded in student feedback. For example, posting to Power School once a week rather than daily. We need to be careful not to overwhelm the students, and that objective work that is not support dependent. There's a shared Google Doc for hard copy work with distribution supported by and pickup and return schedule. There's a continued attempt to be responsive to staff, district, parents, and community given the influx, trust me, the influx of email communication. The commitment to our seniors who are on track to graduate will graduate. And the graduation ceremony, which we know will not happen on June 11th or 12th, will be rescheduled for when the county and the educational officials determine that it is safe. Okay, Andy, you have quite a few updates for us as well.
I do. With regard to facilities, we have a facility monitoring plan in place.
Andy, can you turn that microphone towards you, please? That microphone is on all the time, and so she was cautious to not.
With regard to facilities, we have a site monitoring plan in place, and so we have a custodian who's coming currently 4 hours a day to support food services and Vintage Hall, as we have staff at Vintage Hall typically every day. And then the custodian is also going around and checking each site to make sure that there's no vandalism or safety hazards, and then also receiving deliveries. And then additionally, Joe Perez, our Director of Facilities and Aquatics, has been on call and is here just about every day monitoring the sites and assisting with facility-related work. And then we're also addressing our construction needs, and so we have been looking at each of our projects. With regard to the Vintage Hall roof, we're still on track for that. We've got scaffolding that's going to be set up starting, I believe, tomorrow, actually, outside, and then they're going to begin the bee mitigation work here on the roof. We're replacing some flooring earlier than anticipated next week over at the primary school in room 7 in the main office. With regard to food services, as of April 1st, we've served 1,014 breakfasts and 1,010 lunches for a total of 2,024 meals. And service has been increasing since we first began. On the 17th, March 17th, we served 70 meals, and then yesterday it was 242, and today it was 252 meals. The daily average for last week was 162 meals, and that's breakfast and lunch combined. And then starting on Monday, April 6th, which is the beginning of spring break, we're going to be moving to a different food services model where we're going to be delivering food or having food available for pickup twice weekly. And so families will be able to pick up on Mondays between 9 and 10 to receive meals for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then they'll be able to come back on Thursday to receive meals for Thursday and Friday. Again, those breakfast and lunch combos. And then they'll receive one hot meal and then meals that can be refrigerated in the rest of their package. And so thank you to Trustee Haug for making that suggestion. We worked on that today and in fact received the okay from the state to be able to do that. And so by doing that, we'll be able to help keep families and employees safe because they won't need to come out as much. They won't have to use fuel. It'll reduce our need for custodian during the day also. So all that's good. With regard to technology, we have a staff coverage plan for addressing student needs, and so we have a rotating schedule whereby one of our network employees monitors the phone line for students who need to swap out a device or having problems with their equipment. And so then based on those calls that we receive, we set up a time for them to come in and drop off their equipment and receive a different device instead. And then staff is also monitoring teacher and administrative need and then responding to that every day. And I've been really impressed with how quickly they're able to respond and then also troubleshoot for some kind of unique challenges that we haven't had to deal with in the past. And then we also have a list of approximately 50 students at this time that have challenges with internet, and so we're supporting them. As Mary Lou mentioned in her report, Yvonne Vosti, our community liaison, is going to be reaching out to those families. I'm expecting a proposal from T-Mobile, hopefully tomorrow, for these special devices. They're phones that can serve as hotspots only. And so those are $75 a unit. There's a large back order on hotspot devices right now, but she said that we could potentially get these within a week. And so then we would be paying a fee for those, and we would be working with those families to get them a hotspot if they're able to use that. We're looking at some different satellite options for those families that live very remotely, for whom a hotspot couldn't work. And so we'll have more information for the board about that soon also. And then additionally, we've been continuing our work on other technology activities such as the conversion from AT&T to Sonic, the dark fiber cabling project that we've been working on, and that's on track, which we're happy about. For business services, we've been running payroll timely. The team has been paying bills, and they've been working ceaselessly for the Escape implementation. You may recall that we're changing from digital schools over to Escape. And so that work has been unrelenting because we have a July 1st go-live date. And I've been really proud of our team because they've been participating in webinars and working really hard to continue pace with that. We're also looking at contracts right now. I recently did a report of all of our open POs. We have about 350 open purchase orders right now. Of those, 26 are related to contracted services, and so I'm going through each of those to determine if it's appropriate to continue paying them, if they're continuing to provide services, and how we're managing that. And so what I'm doing also currently is keeping track of all of our expenses. New expenses that have come up, for example, to support students with distance learning. We've looked at some new software and things like that, and so we're keeping track of those expenses. And then conversely, the savings that we're realizing with having the pool closed and so forth. And then I'm preparing a special report to present to you in September along with the unaudited actuals for 2019-20, where you'll get to see kind of a snapshot of the financial impact of this COVID-19 event. And so that would conclude my section.
Thank you, Andy. And we are a school district. We're all about students. And yet we still are also a business. And so we do continue to move forward. Our teachers and our staff are working, so are staff in Vintage Hall. We will continue with many of our regularly scheduled meetings soon. Many of you in the community, our employees or board members, will be receiving invitations to participate in LCAP steering, in wellness committee meetings. We need to continue running our business, and we will. And at this time of the year, what we're actually doing is starting to plan for next year. And so our next steps that we're beginning to look into are before the year ends, those ceremonies and the celebrations that we're so accustomed to during the month of May, and what can we do to honor our students this year. We don't know whether or not we can hold extended school year, our summer school programs. We have no idea, so we're monitoring that as well. Andy's working on budget development. Chris and Mary are working on the local control accountability plan. They have to work together to align that budget with the LCAP so that we can bring those forward to you for approval. And then what we've already started thinking about is that return to school date. What can we do as a community, because we are unique and we can do just about anything, to honor the students and the teachers in this school year today as we say farewell to this school year and start fresh. So we're beginning to look at that as well. Yes, this was a long report, and I felt that it was really important for you to get a deep, complex understanding around the work that has been accomplished. We're happy to answer any questions or comments that you have at this time, and I also would recommend approval of resolution.
Board members, any questions or comments?
Did you do public comment first?
We already had it.
Well, I'll certainly stop. I certainly don't have any questions at this point. I just have just a huge gratitude to all of you, and that's all I'm going to say because that's all I can handle right now.
Yeah, I'll echo that as well. That is awesome work. So thank you. I do feel like it's just amazing. It's amazing. Like I just feel like this breath has just been blown into the life that was known as school that's now called remote learning. I think it's a shift in philosophy, right? I mean, we have to go from being in school to being out of school, but still learning. So kudos to everybody. That was just so much great information. So thank you. I'm really pleased to hear that sounds like once the kids come back on the 14th, a little more face-to-face, if you will, even if it's video, conferencing, Google Meet, whatever. I think from the little that I have heard, I think, our kids are missing their teachers. They're missing seeing their classmates' faces. So even if it's small group or whatever, I think that's going to it'll bode well for mental health as well as everybody's trying to struggle with the new reality. So thank you tremendously for everybody's efforts. I really appreciate it.
I'd also like to add that I'm very impressed with essentially the bases being covered, fiscally, academically. Really sounds like we have a very solid plan. I would hazard a guess that we're probably in the top 2 or 3 districts out there that have gone this far and have thought about it this much and made such progress. I'm very excited about this online learning that can be out to the community. The ability to give them internet at whatever the cost is to make sure that nobody's left behind. And to me, that's very important. I did have a question, though, because the credit, no credit, how does that work? So I understood. I got that the third quarter grades ended as of March 13th when they were in school. And then, so everybody for the remainder of the school year at all levels will be credit, no credit. Is that correct? Or is that just high school? Or how is that determined, if we know yet? The Ouija board right now.
Mr. Heller, would you like to address that question?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Yes, Trustee Conwell, that information came down from the CDE just the other day in regards to credit, no credit. It is a challenge because, you have students that have performed work up to the third quarter, and, that's all going to change. But, we're moving forward in purposes of transcript, which is a big concern that I had with students thinking about, getting into UCs and scholarships and so on. It sounds like this is the way that it's going to be across the state, and this is going to be recognized by many groups as, achieving credit in this time, because we have to take into consideration that everybody's home situation and outside of school situation is going to be vastly different. And so this is the way to level the playing field for all seniors and all students moving forward.
Thank you. You answered my question, which was it just high school or all students? So this will always be as a credit or no credit semester to everyone in our district.
We are still developing what TK8 looks like. We have essential skills for the students to perform, and that's still being worked out. As like I said, this information was pretty recent, and we're going to have a meeting tomorrow with the administrators to finalize.
Thank you.
Joe or Julio, do you have any questions or comments?
This is Trustee Olguin. I have a comment.
Go ahead, Julio.
Trustee Olguin. Okay. I just wanted to reiterate what some of the board members have already said. I appreciate all the district's efforts, from the superintendent, the administrators, teachers, and staff, all just really pulling together. I want to emphasize to the community, hopefully they're watching this report, this long report of all the work that the staff and administrators and everyone's doing. Just to reiterate to the community that our district is doing so much already. They're doing their best with the information that's coming in. And just to know that our students and staff are the highest priority. So I just wanted to reiterate that and just thank everyone that has been part of this.
Thank you, Julio. Joe, do you have any comments?
This is Representative Brody, and I'm going to keep it short because if I talk about it for too long, I'm going to get emotional. But I'm going to echo what almost everyone else has said. Thank you so much to all of the teachers, all of the school administration, all of the district staff. We are all in this together just as a district and as a community. So I want to thank you for your leadership and your guidance and your resilience in this really difficult time. It is really admiring to see that as a district, we have such strong guidance. And again, I just want to thank you for all of the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Joe. I just also want to reiterate what everyone has been saying we're so grateful that we have the team together that is pulling together to keep our school running. And I just want to give another shout out to our food services team. They're providing a really very, very important service to our community right now. It's something that I know families look forward to in a time that can be very bleak. And I think that the food service team and being out there giving to feeding our students that need assistance, it's just wonderful that we can keep that going. I also want to just, I can't remember if we mentioned it, but our school district is able to help the community in so many different ways, and I do believe we gave we were able to give our N95 masks to the Santolina Hospital, where they can be put to better use at this time, and I just wanted the community to know that. Thank you. Anything else?
Now that I'm able to talk just a little bit, I thank you all very much for everything that you do. Our teachers, our students. It's all been said, but I have full appreciation, and I feel so blessed to be in this school district.
And if I could give a shout out to our primary teachers and principal, they have planned a spring break parade tomorrow. The teachers will be meeting at the school parking lot in their own cars at 11:30, and they have a route that they will be driving through the community for the children to come out from their homes and wave to the teachers. They're not getting out of the cars. They're simply driving through the community to celebrate and say hello and introduce spring break. So a huge thank you to that team in that celebration.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 19-19 as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
As many are in favor of the adoption of the resolution will, as their name is called, answer aye. Those opposed will answer no. Dr. Wilson will call the roll.
Trustee Browdy?
Aye.
Trustee Conwell?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Olguin?
Aye.
Trustee Pelosi?
Aye.
Trustee Haug?
Aye. Motion carried. So next we have the review of the governance handbook. This is the governing board developed our handbook. The last time we went over it was in November of 2019 was our last update. I would like to, first of all, was there any public comment on this agenda item?
No.
So, trustees, what I would like to know from you is if there is a desire to have a closed session item, a special board meeting regarding this item to go over and review the governance handbook. We could either do it in the fall or maybe at the beginning of next year. I'm just looking for your feedback at this time, whether you would like to review the entire handbook or whether we should just look at one section that we could do in a regular board meeting, or whether you would like a workshop. And I'll leave it open to discussion.
Okay. All right. I would be up for a study session workshop. I think I think it's our guiding book, so I think it needs to be looked at, and whether or not it needs some tweaks, edits, additions. I think I would be in favor of doing so.
Trustee Kerr, we'll just go around.
I would be in favor of something coming
Of
up.
a workshop?
Sure.
A special board meeting?
Yeah, and it's right. I mean, this is kind of our guiding brochure, pamphlet. So it's, this is what we use.
And Trustee Conwell?
I also would be in favor, in particular, also the next item that comes up every time we do the self-governance assessment tool. We've got a very small paragraph in our handbook, and there's always questions that come out of how to answer that prior to and afterwards. And it's like, oh, I didn't mean that, or I meant this. And I think that we could somehow come up with a more clarifying area to be able to hopefully keep those mistakes to a minimum in the self-governance area. I think we've done a good job with the superintendent evaluation area, but I think with the self-governance, we need to look at those particular items in particular.
And Julio, are you also able to answer to this question now?
Yes, I'm in agreement as well to if we set up a meeting or a closed session or study session to look through the governance handbook. And then as for myself, just one small section that I'd like to see some or that we could add possibly is new board members and assigning a mentor. I think we discussed this at the last one, so I mean that's just one section that I wanted to highlight and make sure that we put maybe a section. And I read through it and I didn't really find anything about new board members. And I know it's kind of an informal process, but I think just putting a little more direction to the board and having any new board members have a mentor or someone that they can basically show them the ropes and answer questions.
Thank you, Julio. So I think that it's going to be a little hard to. I guess we could schedule a remote workshop, or we could schedule it in person. I guess that would be the next question.
Well, I feel like right now, the timing again is there's a little bit more pressing issues. I think whether we schedule it a few months out, giving us time to review it on our own, and then coming back. I feel like our staff has a little bit more priorities to take care of right now than scheduling a workshop for us.
I would agree with that as well, and I'm thinking in the fall, maybe later fall or something, might work well.
So I was also thinking a later date might be okay, but for some of us who are, board members ourselves who are home a little bit more than they're used to because they are not working their former jobs. I think that if we could all take a little time and really dig down deep into our district governance handbook and bring all those questions and really go through it line by line. And we have, I think, a few months to do it. And I think we don't have to put this on the district's lap right now. I think that it's something that we can probably find time to do on our own. How does everyone feel about that? Okay. And maybe we'll look for something in the we'll have to see how things develop, but maybe would we like to do it in the fall or by the end of this year, this school year?
I would prefer the fall.
I'm good with anything.
And Jeff, do you have a preference?
Yeah, I think the fall is, the later we do this, I think this is not a issue because it certainly does take staff time to even, no matter what we do, it's still going to take staff time. So
exactly.
I don't want to, there's many more things to go on. And if it turns out that there's more time and we get notice that we can do that, we could.
So, and Julio, do you have any more comments?
No, I'm good with the fall as well.
So I would like to have all of us, maybe have a copy by our bedside and take notes over the next few months, and we will come together and schedule a meeting in the fall.
Highlighter in hand.
So next we have item 10C. It's the board self-evaluation. The CSBA governance self-assessment tool criteria and timeline. So in the past we have, I'm sorry, was there public comment on this agenda item?
No, there was no public comment.
Okay. So thank you. So we have to actually order the CSBA self-assessment tool. And we have, I'm thinking since it's online, that's something that we can still do without any real issues. Correct, Erica?
Yes, the cost of the survey is $200, and I just need board direction on what would you like the timeline to look like. They give us 2 weeks to complete, so a start date and an end date would be great.
So from the time that we pay, we have 2 weeks to complete the assessment. So we're looking at what does everyone's schedules look like, and then we would be. I think the timing is important because we want to be able to discuss the results at a closed session of a regular board meeting, or so.
Open session. Open session.
Oh, okay, that's right. It's an open session. We could have either a study session, or we could do it at a regular board meeting.
Well, I'm just thinking that maybe we do it at the end of the school year. Do it. We have the 2 weeks to do it, and then we can meet again in maybe in August or something to do our evaluation in the open session.
Okay.
That's just one thought.
I was kind of thinking along those same lines as well. Again, just not taxing staff with whatever input they may have to give us to help see this through.
And their time too.
Yeah, that's what. It's, input time, and that's primarily what I was referring to. But so if we can do it in the beginning of June and have time to then come back and do it, as long as everybody feels comfortable, because I know when we met before to discuss it, that was a study session we did down in the little room, correct? To discuss.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Which was super helpful. To Trustee Conwell's comment, it was really helpful to be able to do that. But I'm good with that timeline as well. I'm here for the next few months.
Erica, what length of time does it take for CSBA to turn around the information and prepare the report?
It's fairly quick. Within 5 to 7 days, they can prepare the data.
So I think Erica has placed on the screen the upcoming meetings so that you can look at those and maybe backtrack, knowing that you need a 2-week window to conduct the survey, and then CSBA needs a 1-week window to prepare the report, and then we need all of that information a week prior, at least, to a regularly scheduled meeting or a special meeting, if so you so choose, so that it can be agendized.
I would like to make the suggestion that that we would target basically the May 14th or May 15th to open the window, to go to June 1st. That would give it the issue I would have with the June of self-evaluation is we come back 2 months later and we don't remember what we wrote and why we did it. And so I think if we can condense the whole thing in a month period, while it's fresher in our minds in a 1 month rather than a spacing of 2 months, I think that would be preferred for me.
I can support that as well.
Julio, do you have comments?
No, I'm in agreement as well, just with a quick turnaround, just so that we're fresh on the answers and assessments that we give, and if we have opportunity to discuss, we kind of remember why we answered things a certain way. So I'm in agreement.
Okay, so it looks like we're going to be requesting the self-evaluation tool in mid-May in order for discussion at a June board meeting.
Thank you for that direction. And then one of the other asks that you required of me at the last self-evaluation was that prior to beginning the self-evaluation, we would look at the criteria, the questions that are being asked, and calibrate so that all members of the board are coming at the evaluation with that same sense of mind. As far as the sense of the timing of the year and how you approach the questions. So, Erica, if you could go ahead and scroll down so that we can see the different sections of the self-evaluation. And as she's doing that, I would remind all of the board members that when you conduct the self-evaluation, it's for this year. It's not for your 8 years that you've been on the term. It's for this year only. And I would ask if any of you have any questions around any of the questions that are being asked of you. My understanding is that they are the same as they have been in the past. I might take you to the last set of questions demonstrating community leadership. I know that board members in the past have really struggled with number 58. If you'll recall, that's the one about local, state, and federal levels. And what I recall as a group you talked about was that it was important that you be active in the local environment, and that's really what you wanted to assess within your own organization. And Trustee Conwell, you were president at the time of the last evaluation. Do you recall any others that we wanted to make sure that everyone understood or were able to discuss?
As I remember, I wrote a paragraph or two prior to taking the self-evaluation. I was just trying to go into my Google Docs to pull it up, but I cannot do that right now. So maybe what I can do is I could forward that to the board president and the superintendent as to what my instructions were given last time before to take it. So that might, and I know that item 58 was one of the things we discussed because of the difference in beliefs for each one of us. We each all had a different belief. So if I'm able to find that email, I will happily forward that. And you all can figure out how to spread it out if it needs to be done. And we would be talking about it the next meeting anyway. Yeah.
I have a recollection with regard to 57, trying to, and I know we did spend time talking about understanding what partnerships were as well, understanding what we felt that we were pursuing as a board in terms of partnerships.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Trustee Pelosi. I think that as a board, you felt that it was your responsibility to develop those partnerships, and I was able to remind you that you have a number of partnerships within this community with Up Valley Center, with the city, with the Parks and Recs Department. That's just to name a couple. There's many, many other partnerships, and that's a very active part of this community. No one's working in isolation. Okay.
So does anyone else recall anything besides item 58 that and actually for those of us who were signed up to go to the board, I can't remember the term that is used, the Legislative Action Day, is it called? It was canceled this year. Anyway, it was canceled this year. So so that's another reason maybe to remove that item.
And just to clarify, they won't remove them, and you'll be responding locally.
Yes. Exactly.
And I think I recall that I think we were pleased with what the questions were and the ease of it. Even though it gave you a lot of thought, but it was an easy survey to take. It was not as long and not as long as our past surveys as well.
Yes, I recall that, and I also remember just everybody feeling quite happy about the chance to converse about it and dialogue it and really kind of workshop and dig into the questions as well. Mm-hmm. I think I found it particularly helpful, so I was grateful for that opportunity.
Okay, thank you. You have everything you need, Erica? Yes.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that for us. Okay. So next we have information on the revision of AR 6115, Ceremonies and Observances. Erica, was there public comment on this agenda item?
No, there was not.
And I'd like to call on Dr. Mary Lou Wilson.
Yes, thank you. As you recall, administrative regulations are the how we get something done, and it's at the the work of the administrative team to develop and implement. Board policies are the overarching structure around the policy around something. So, for example, we do have board policy around our American flag and how that flag is to be flown, and the administrative regulation goes into a little bit more detail around when the flag is flown at half-mast, if it's different aspects of our American flag. We also have the ability to fly other flags on the flagpole as long as they are below not only the American flag but the California flag. And in light of conversations that have occurred over the last year or so, I am recommending a change to the administrative regulation, and it's shown on the screen in red, that will allow our district student body organizations, so our students, the ability to request that a temporary display of a flag occur. That request would be submitted in writing to me, and as superintendent, I would ensure that the request is in alignment with district board policy, state and federal law, and the request would need to get to me 30 days prior to any of the event occurring. So there have been requests in the past around this. We did not have working guidelines to support it, and I felt that even though we don't have any other resolutions around this, I wanted to go ahead and get this change made, because we are a business and we need to keep moving forward. So I wanted to inform you that I am making this change to our administrative regulation, and certainly entertain any questions or concerns that you might have at this time.
Board members, any questions or comments?
One comment, and I do believe that I know the answer, but I will ask the question. I know it's going back to the board policy committee for review, but at that point, maybe there needs to be some definition of what temporarily display refers to. I mean, do we need to define what temporary is? Does it mean 2 weeks? Does it mean 30 days we display? I mean, I'm just wondering if that's something that needs to be defined.
Thank you. Yes, I purposely left that open-ended because there could be potentially a student body organization asking for something to be flown on a particular day,
okay,
or for 30 days. And so the written application would need to include the length of time that they're requesting.
Perfect.
And then, on that case-by-case basis, I would analyze that request and either approve that time period or modify that time period if appropriate.
Thank you so much.
Joe, do you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, and Julio, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, one clarifying thing. I want to. This is an AR, and it has been changed, so it would not go to the policy committee because it doesn't apply. I mean, it's a board policy committee.
There are times when the board policy has looked at ARs in the past, and in fact, there are some potentially outdated information pieces in this AR. We typically do inform the board policy committee of changes to ARs prior to bringing them before the governing board. So it's likely that I will go ahead and take this one, Trustee Conwell, because there are some celebrations and holidays, thank you, Trustee Kerr, that we may or may not really be acknowledging as either we need to or we need to relieve ourselves from, give us permission to stop celebrating them.
Thank you, then that makes sense.
Okay, any further comments? Okay, thank you. And then this is really exciting. I'm glad we get to do this board meeting. Really, it's been on our calendar for a long time, but it's just really appropriate to be doing this right now. So Please, Ms. Pelosi, will you read the Resolution 19-18 for Staff Appreciation Week?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. St. Helena Unified School District, Resolution Number 19-18, Staff Appreciation Week 2020. Whereas providing quality education to our young people continues to be our greatest challenge in education, as well as our most vital responsibility. And whereas we rely on our teaching and support staff to ensure quality instruction in a wide variety of subjects in and out of the classroom. And whereas, in addition to teaching academics, teachers and classified staff members provide guidance, support, and encouragement to the children of St. Helena. And whereas our staff members go far beyond their contractual obligations to support and touch the lives of children. And whereas it is appropriate that we recognize and express appreciation to the employees of St. Helena Unified School District and acknowledge with gratitude the care and concern they have for our students. And therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of St. Helena Unified School District acknowledges May 4th, 2020 through May 8th, 2020 as Staff Appreciation Week. And be it further resolved that the board extends during this week and throughout the year its sincere appreciation to the instructional and support staff of the St. Helena Unified School District for their extraordinary dedication and professional commitment to the students of the St. Helena community. Passed and adopted the second day of April 2020 at a regular board meeting.
Erica, was there any public comment on this agenda item?
No public comment.
I think this is the first time I've gotten emotional when a resolution was read. Trustees, do we have any questions about this agenda item?
Not well.
Or comments?
I guess it's a comment in a way. Now, is there something that we as a board can do for our staff this year?
Thank you for asking, Trustee Kerr. Erica and I have been discussing this item already. We don't have an idea yet, and if you have any ideas, please feel free to forward them to us. We do know that we want to acknowledge our employees. We typically have a celebration. Most recently, it's been in Rotary Park, and it's always been really a joyful opportunity to interact with our employees. And we are sad that we will not be having that organized event. So yes, we will be doing something. We don't know what it is, and if you have an idea, send it our way.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? So I just want to also use this time to speak to all of our community members that might be watching out there. I would really love it if you put May 4th through May 8th on your calendar and think of something that you can do for our staff and our teachers that are doing so many wonderful things during this difficult time. And just again, it's May 4th through May 8th, and you have plenty of time to talk about it with your students and your family and come up with some wonderful ideas of how you can say thank you to everyone. So is there a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 19-18 as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 1918.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
As many are in favor of the adoption of the resolution will, as their name is called, answer aye. Those opposed will answer no. Dr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Trustee Browdy?
Aye.
Trustee Conwell?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Olguin?
Aye.
Trustee Pelosi?
Aye.
Trustee Haug?
Aye. Motion carried. So on to item 11A, Business and Operations. This 11A is the review and consider approval of 2 letters of intent to grant easements on the district property for the Vine Hill Trail project. Erica, was there any public comment on this agenda item?
No public comment.
Andy?
Thank you. The Napa Valley Vine Trail Coalition is seeking 2 easements on district property to complete their proposed trail. One would be on the parking lot off of Main Street here in front of Vintage Hall, and the other would be on the property where the co-op preschool leases the building there. And I checked with legal counsel and confirmed that education code allows us to grant an easement to the state or to a municipal or political subdivision. So it would be allowable for us to grant these easements to Napa County per their request. And what we've done in each of these letters of intent is to request that they reimburse us for direct costs, so legal fees and so forth for the cost of establishing these easements. And then also if they are to remove any trees or shrubbery, they would reach out to us first before doing that. And so I would ask that the board consider approval of these 2 letters of intent for easements for the proposed Vine Trail.
So, trustees, this was presented to us last board meeting. Are there any questions about this agenda item?
You know, I have a quick question. So I'm looking at the which one am I looking at? The map of the parking lot, and so I'm seeing it looks like there might be like restriping the lot, and so it looks like there's a couple of shelter, like a couple of structures. So will those be taken out and put in with stripes to expand the parking lot that way? And I'm looking at the one right there on the right hand side, those structures right there, and I'm thinking that one of them might be the old.
That's a Google. Those are just tractor trailer trucks. It's just a bad picture. They're not structures.
Okay,
It's just an empty parking lot.
Isn't there the bus stop there though? Yeah.
There's the old. You're depot, correct.
Yeah.
There's the old
like a bus shelter.
The historic
Right.
shelter
Right.
on the wall that's against the wall there.
They do not intend to remove the wall. The trail the Vine Trail would be inside the wall.
Okay.
So it will change parking spaces and eliminate a few parking spaces. Correct, Ms. Stubbs?
Correct. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that structure is shown as you look at the right arrow, and there, right directly underneath it is the historic
right
bus
there.
stop right
Okay.
there, and that's where so you can see that. And then the arrows, those are actually vehicles, or that I think that might have been when we were doing summer work out there. Is
Right,
what that was,
right,
because
exactly.
I
It's
recognized
just yeah.
that was the construction trucks.
Okay. I guess I was concerned kind of at that shelter because I know it's a historical. Yeah.
Ms. Stubbs, should we modify that letter of intent to include that the historical structure would not be impacted?
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Jeannie.
Oh, of course. You're welcome.
Is there a motion to approve the 2 letters of intent to grant easements on the district property for the Vine Hill Trail with the addition of the provision that the historical bus shelter is not affected?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
As many are in favor of the adoption of the resolution will, as their name is called, answer aye. Those opposed will answer no. Dr. Wilson will please call the roll.
Trustee Browdy?
Aye.
Trustee Conwell?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Olguin?
Aye.
Trustee Pelosi?
Aye.
Trustee Howe?
Aye. Motion carried. Next, we have item 11B, the transportation update. Ms. Andy Stubbs.
Thank you. And the board recalls that Napa Valley Unified is no longer continuing to provide the district with services after June 30th of this year, and in fact is not currently. And so we commissioned a study from Pupil Transportation Information, and they've prepared for us kind of a preview of their full report, which will come to the board May 14th. And so that's provided for you just as an information item this evening. And what they share is that the final report is going to be divided up into 3 sections. They'll look at our current transportation services and costs. They'll review the current agreement with Napa Unified, and then also discuss potential service delivery models for the immediate and long-term future. And so I just wanted to talk about a few of these items in a little bit more detail. Under current transportation services and costs, they've got some recommendations there. For example, number 1 has to do with the recommendation that we hire our own drivers for special ed for transporting students to non-public placements out of the area rather than contracting with an organization like Zoom, which is what we've been doing. And so these are students that attend school in Santa Rosa under a special education agreement. And in the past, we've used some more expensive solutions to transport those students. We've found Zoom, which specializes in this kind of transportation, and they've provided us with good service this past year. And PTI is feeling that if we were to develop our own transportation program and hire our own drivers, we could probably save some money there. And so that's why they have that recommendation in that particular place. And then number 2, they say consider consolidating our 2 large routes, the Angwin route and the Lake Berryessa route. And the reason they have that recommendation there is because I'd asked them to look at all of our different stops and see if there was anything that they could potentially condense. And so they'll provide more detail on that in their final report. But it would be challenging to really change that because it's kind of too disparate spokes there, and so if you're going to make both of those stops, then you might as well make all the stops along the way down to the schools. But they had wanted to address that because I had asked them about looking at all the different stops that we've got. Item number 3, place non-school bus vehicles to transport students on a regular preventative maintenance program. And so we do have vans and so forth that are used for field trips and such, and we have our maintenance team look at those regularly and get those smogged and do maintenance checks on them. And so they're just suggesting that we put that on a maintenance, real rigorous maintenance review, just like one would a school bus, which I think is a great recommendation. What I'm real excited about with regard to their final report is they're going to give us, as they called it, a cookbook of how to put together your own transportation program. And so it'll include all those kinds of compliance details that we'll need if the board in the future authorizes or approves us to move forward with our own program. And so this study was done in conjunction with Calistoga, so they've got a few recommendations that are unique to them. And then on page 2, they conducted a review of the current agreement with Napa Unified, and the result of their work with them, in addition to getting greater detail about our fleet that we've been using and those kinds of things, they were really able to kind of confirm that likely Napa Unified will not be able to provide us with services anytime in the future. And then currently, I just received the invoice for March from Napa Unified, and so they're only billing us just for that portion of time when school is open for March. And then currently they're reviewing their contract with Michael's Transportation to see if there's any obligation there moving into April and into May. And so as I have that information, I'll share that with the board. And then under the section potential service delivery models for the immediate and long-term future, they address some considerations if the district is to approve a short-term plan for transportation for next year. And so they're agreeing with our suggestion of contracting with Michael's Transportation for school bus drivers, and the board has already approved that contract, and I'm preparing to provide them with the information that they would need to staff us for next year. They're recommending leasing buses is necessary for the short term, and so I've established a relationship with a company that will do that for us. And then they also made a recommendation that we set ourselves up as what's called a motor carrier, now that we're going to be providing our own transportation next year, even though we'd be contracting out the services. So I'll be taking that step real soon. And then they reviewed the kind of the long-term picture in terms of some different options for transportation. And so you can see there's 4 things there that are not recommended, and then 1 thing that is, and that is that one district act as the lead and build a transportation system that would serve both districts, meaning us and Calistoga potentially. And they would recommend that as it would create some economies of scale. And so when we present the full report to the board in May, then we'll also be seeking direction from the board in terms of the long-term plan. And so do we want to continue next year with the same level of service, perhaps for a year, and then take a year to develop perhaps our own program in conjunction with Calistoga? So those are some of the discussion points that we'll have the board circle back to for the May 14th meeting. And I'm hoping for the May 14th meeting also to have a contract for those leased buses for you, so that we would be set and ready to go for next year, depending on the level that the board approves. And so with that, I would entertain any questions that the board has.
Erica, were there any comments or public comment on this?
No public comment.
Okay, so we've had this issue of the changes to our bus service on the agenda for several meetings now, and there has not yet been much public feedback. Board members, do we have any questions or comments at this time?
You know, I don't have any questions. I just I thank you for your work on this and kind of always looking into the future. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Stubbs, could you remind the board and the community the outreach that you have taken to ensure that our bus riders' families are aware of the potential changes?
We have posted information on the web, and that we've also done Blackboard Connect communications with them as well.
Okay, and so there's no more questions? Okay, so we'll be moving on to 11C, approval of the 2019 Measure B and C bond audit reports.
Thank you. And we still have a few $100s left of Measure C proceeds, and quite a bit still of the Measure B proceeds, which are allocated for technology infrastructure. And so we have a financial audit of those every year, and we received our audit reports back, and we had no findings for the fiscal year ending 2019. And so I would ask that the board, and the Citizens Oversight Committee was able to review those audit reports, and they included remarks about them in their annual report, which I'll share with you during the next item. And so with that, I would ask the board to review and consider approval of the 2019 Measure B and Measure C bond audit reports.
With no findings.
Did I forget to mention that, Dr. Wilson?
Erica, was there any public comment on this?
There was no public comment.
I'd just like to remind everyone that as part of our consent agenda, we did approve the renewal of terms for 2 of our volunteer members of this committee, and I just would like to, this is all volunteer work that they do, and it's a lot of work, and I would just like to use this time to also thank our volunteer oversight committee members, those who have served in the past and those who have agreed to serve again. I would like to thank all of them. Is there a motion to, oh, I'm sorry, did I ask if anyone had any questions?
No questions.
Is there a motion to approve the 2019 Measure B and C bond audit as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
As many are in favor of the adoption of the resolution will, as their name is called, answer aye. Those opposed will answer no. Dr. Wilson will call the roll.
Trustee Browdy?
Aye.
Trustee Conwell?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Olguin?
Aye.
Trustee Pelosi?
Aye.
Trustee Haug?
Aye. Motion carried. Now we are on to item 11D. That is the approval of the annual report of the Measure BC Citizens Oversight Committee. Andy?
Thank you. And the district is required to have a Citizens Oversight Committee for review of all bond project expenditures. And the two main functions of that committee are to provide an annual report and to have a financial audit of the bond programs completed each year. And so we did conduct our annual meeting on March 26, 2020. That was done remotely. And so they reviewed the bond audits and our expenditures and so forth, and prepared the annual report. And the committee president, David DeSanti, has asked me to read a statement for him. First, the Citizens Oversight Committee members would like to thank the community for their support of our public schools and for their investment in our future by voting to adopt Measures B and C. The COC of the Santolina Unified School District was formed pursuant to Measures B and C for the purpose of actively reviewing and reporting on the expenditure of Measure B and C bond proceeds. The COC is required to advise the public through at least one report per year as to whether the district is compliant with the articles of the Constitution that govern the expenditure of school bond funds, and this report is made available on the district's website. To form our conclusions, the COC reviewed the third-party audit performed by Christy White, a certified public accountant firm that specializes in auditing K-12 school districts and charter schools through California. Our meeting of March 26, 2020 was held in compliance with the Brown Act. The district has, without spending funds, provided the COC with the administrative support that it needed to meet and to perform our review and reporting duties. And the COC conducted the following activities. They reviewed expenditures and asked district personnel questions regarding the projects and their expenditures. They reviewed the annual bond financial audit. The auditing firm reported that there were no weaknesses, deficiencies, or instances of non-compliance in the school district's financial statements, and no findings and no recommendations related to the school construction bonds. In short, all expenditures and accounting were found to be in proper order. Please note that this annual audit is also available for the public to review on the district's website. After the review of the expenditures and the audit reports, the COC formed the following conclusion. The COC concludes that bond proceeds spent to date have only been spent for the construction, reconstruction, rehabilitation, or replacement of school facilities, or the acquisition or lease of real property for school facilities as identified in the project list presented to district voters upon adopting Measures B and C. Furthermore, no proceeds were spent on teacher salaries, administrative salaries, or on operational expenses. And then David goes on to state that it has been our honor to serve the public, and we welcome questions from the public. In addition, we welcome members of the public with an interest in the district to participate in our work by attending our future meeting scheduled for March 24th, 2021. And so that concludes the COC statement. And I, too, would like to thank the members of the COC. They were very present and engaged in our last meeting, even though it was my first one conducted remotely with animals and teenagers flying in the background. I would definitely like to thank our two outgoing members, Alexandra Haslip and John Collins, and then David DeSanti and Jillian Casey for being willing to renew and stay on with us. And we'll continue our recruitment efforts also.
Erica, was there any public comment on this agenda item?
No public comment.
Trustees, is there any questions or comments?
No.
Is there a motion to approve the annual report of the Measure BC Citizens Oversight Committee as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
As many are in favor of the adoption of the resolution will, as their name is called, answer aye. Those opposed will answer no. Dr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Yes, Trustee Browdy?
Aye.
Trustee Conwell?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Olguin?
Aye.
Trustee Pelosi?
Aye.
Trustee Haug?
Aye. Motion carried. On to item 11E, third board review of the 2020-2021 draft budget assumptions. This is a written report. It says to call on you, but it's a written report. Was there any public comment on this agenda item, Erica?
No public comment.
Trustees, are there any questions or comments?
Thank you for updating the transportation portion of the budget. Thank you.
And now we are on to item 12A, future agenda items. So we do have the two items that we added already, the board self-evaluation, and then the which will be for the June meeting, and then we have the upcoming board special study session for the handbook. Is there anything else?
Trustee Haug, I would like to remind the board that we do have a subcommittee working on two resolutions, an update to the green resolution and the potential of a pride resolution. And so with the consensus of the board, I'd like to bring those potentially in draft form, maybe even for action at the May meeting.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
I'm seeing a number of heads shake yes, so I'm going to...
Please do. That would be great. Thank you.
Yes, I am in favor of that.
Yes. So we are adding those. Yes, we are adding those. And is there anything else? Okay, thank you. We have a full agenda for May, and it looks like we'll probably be having the same setup for our May meeting for anyone who's watching. Again, you're welcome to call in with your questions beforehand, and I think that this technically went very well, and I'd like to thank Derek back there for all the work that you've been doing, and Erica as well. Thank you both for working so hard to make this run smoothly. Do I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dr. Wilson, will you please call the roll?
I haven't had to work so hard at a board meeting before. Trustee Browdy?
Aye.
Trustee Conwell?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Olguin?
Aye.
Trustee Pelosi?
Aye.
Trustee Haug?
Aye. Motion carried. The meeting ended at 7:54 p.m.